Since the open-door policy was officially instituted in 1978 by the People's Republic of China, changes have taken place within Chinese society and China's dealings with the rest of the world. The government has led the largest nation in the world on a course with profound implications for nations and firms involved in global trade. The Chinese consumer market shows great potential for growth in all industries. As China's appeal to outsourced manufacturing growth, their economic status attracts companies looking to expand their market share and diversify their current product lines. Walters p. 2003 explains more about Chinese ascension on global trade organization, fast development of Chinese markets and consequence. It took the Asian tigers more than 15 years to build their economies as symbols of new development. It is taking China only a few years to supplant them. Consequences was that the Chinese per capita gross domestic product has quadrupled over the past 2 decades. China become the second largest economy in the world, and fundamental transition from a command to a market-based economy and from a rural society based on agriculture to an urban, industrial one. In China, the problem of information acquisition develops the idea of barriers of Chinese markets like marketing research, infrastructure problem, collecting data, consequences of Chinese tendency to select mid-range values when presented with a research instrument that includes rating scales and survey implementation. The problems identified greatly complicate access to information and, therefore, market planning and marketing decision-making. For example, foreign firms are finding that what sells in Shanghai is no guide to the rest of China. Like an international protectionism, regional protectionism which flourishes in China, as provincial and city authorities have developed market entry barriers that are designed to support local firms at the expense of their competitors based in other regions in China, and local protectionism which arises from the usual misconceived notions that this supports local employment, and guanxi relationships developed over many years between local businessmen and officials. The importance of successful local enterprises as tax cash cows reinforces the tendency of officials to support local firms that might be pressured by external competition. Guanxi in China is already really important to make business. The notion of guanxi has particular importance in business matters, and it has been identified as a critical business success factor by executives involved in business in China. Guanxi is defined as a set of personal connections which can individually give you some resources or advantages to do business in China. A huge market diversity offered by Chinese internal growth and country structure, disparities within and between the provinces that make up this large country. There is also an important rivalry and competition. Markets in China are characterized by intense competition, especially locally owned enterprises. Some Chinese companies have also proved to be more effective than their foreign competitors in developing products and marketing strategies appropriate for the Chinese market. That creates international marketing implications. Although WTO membership should lead to significant reductions in external tariff and other entry barriers, localized internal barriers will remain important. Even though such barriers may be illegal, they are difficult to circumvent, as entrenched local companies, often owned and taxed by the local government, seek to ensure continued protection at the regional level. Creative policies that involve developing new price-competitive products and innovative promotion and distribution methods become particularly important for success in this increasingly demanding market. Strong momentum is being provided by China's accession to the WTO in 2001, which significantly reduced many trade barriers and opened up new sectors of the domestic market to foreign firms. In the long run, there is also the prospect that China will join the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which would then constitute the world's largest free trade area, with an overall population of 1.7 billion. China's foreign trade marketing strategy. In the last 7 years, China has made an impressive stride in the area of international trade. Here are 5 strategies for consideration by officials who are developing China's policies in the area of foreign trade marketing. The increase in exports has been matched by an expansion in the kinds of products available to other nations. This reflects a long-term trend. In the 1950s, China's exports consisted mainly of agricultural products, either directly or as manufactured byproducts. Industrial and mineral products accounted for only 10% of total exports. By 1985, the situation had changed dramatically. Over 70% of exports are now manufactured goods or minerals. The products include textiles, foodstuffs, electrical machinery, chemical products, silk, carpets, porcelain, arts and crafts, tea, bristles, agricultural products, tung oil and more. With the aid of foreign capital, mineral exports are increasing. With the aid of foreign technology, China is now sewing machine tools, hardware, instruments, medical apparatus, bicycles, sewing machines, cameras and similar products in foreign markets. Prior to 1978, these goods were either not produced in China or were not available for export. In spite of China's success in international marketing, serious problems exist. In 1985, China suffered a trade deficit of $7.6 billion. This resulted in a shortage of hard currencies to finance the purchase of technology, capital equipment and strategic raw materials that are essential to China's continued economic development. China has begun a major program to improve its export performance. Here is some of the key elements includes: decentralized responsibilities, creation of production network, systematic programs of export management, reduction of smuggling. Walters P. 2003, believes that China cannot stop efforts to expand foreign sales. Additional sales of coal, oil, and other raw materials will provide badly needed foreign exchange. At the same time, it does not accomplish other goals, such as long-term penetration in foreign markets. 3 reasons may be argued for China to emphasize manufactured goods and finished goods rather than the easier sales of native products or raw materials. These are: labor as a comparative advantage, economic development skills, presence in foreign markets. Instead of importing consumer items, what would happen if China used a larger portion of its foreign exchange to import technology to produce domestic consumer items? Copiers provide a useful example. Over the past 5 years, China has used $20 million of hard currencies to import equipment for producing copiers. The technology was purchased from Japan, the United States, and Hong Kong. Now, 9 assembly lines and 11 special production lines are being installed in 10 major cities. When fully operational in 1990, the nation will have a production capacity of 350,000 copiers a year. Since projected domestic demand is estimated at 120,000 copiers a year, China is producing export capacity. This completes the systematic approach. Emphasis: value-added labor joint ventures. Since 1979, when China promulgated the joint venture law, to the end of 1985, joint venture contracts worth billions of dollars have been signed. Although offshore oil exploration accounts for a major share of these projects, ventures have begun in machine building, fabrication of instruments, textiles, food processing, pharmaceuticals, and a variety of light manufacturing. These ventures are scattered in Beijing, Shanghai, Tianjin, Jiangsu, Liaoning, Sichuan, Anhui, Henan, Hubei, Hunan, Guangdong and elsewhere. Some notable ventures that may contribute to earning future foreign exchange are: Shemei Daily Use Products Company, Parker Hubei Seal Company, Beijing Jeep Corporation. Priorities for assembly technology. Chinese labor rates average between $45 to $75 per month, with family incomes frequently under $100 per month. At the same time, China has a disciplined workforce that can be trained to perform specific assembly tasks in manufacturing. Many such tasks require less than 3 months training, and ventures can be established with a relatively small capital commitment. For assembling consumer products, basic tools may be all that is needed. For assembly of electronic components, quality control and testing equipment is required. These are both examples of capital costs that are relatively minor compared to the cost of labor. Assembly technology offers several benefits of particular importance to China's development. Long-term development. Reduction of foreign exchange needs. Minimize transportation and infrastructures. Multiplier effects. We must retain that the Chinese ability to attract existing programs indicates a growing skill at producing and marketing a variety of products all over the world. The 1986 to 1995 year plan will be implemented in an environment of further opening of internal markets to the outside world. It will also see improvements in legal and economic rules and regulations to promote trade, particularly to encourage ventures that can achieve export earnings. Adaptation of international marketing strategy. Aboiron J and CDK, 2001, present the link between the firm's market environment, its international marketing strategy, and its performance. On the basis of a contingency approach, frameworks have successfully modeled how a firm interacts with the foreign market environment in deciding its international marketing strategy. Researchers, quoted above, have postulated and confirmed links between a firm's adaptation strategy and its international marketing program and the firm's performance. Their findings suggest that in the era of globalization, adaptation can still be a powerful strategy. The authors raise an issue: to what degree the marketing mix should be standardized or adapted. We have to define the marketing mix. It refers to the set of actions, or tactics, that a company uses to promote its brand or product in the market. The 4 Ps make up a typical marketing mix: price, product, promotion, and place. However, nowadays, the marketing mix increasingly includes several other Ps like packaging, positioning, people, and even politics as vital mix elements. Remember that Ps mean. Price refers to the value that is put for a product. It depends on costs of production, segment targeted, etc. Pricing can be used as a demarcation, to differentiate and enhance the image of a product. Product refers to the item actually being sold. The product must deliver a minimum level of performance, otherwise even the best work on the other elements of the marketing mix won't do any good. Place refers to the point of sale. In every industry, catching the eye of the consumer and making it easy for him to buy it is the main aim of a good distribution or place strategy. Promotion, this refers to all the activities undertaken to make the product or service known to the user and trade. This can include advertising, word of mouth, press reports, etc. This 4 Ps notion has been extended to 8 Ps with these 4 other components. People, companies rely on the people who run the business. So, having the right people is an important part of the business in order to offer products/services. Processes, this corresponds to the customer's experience. Physical evidence, this can be advertising, signage, the reception area, the corporate brochure, even staff clothing is part of the physical evidence of the business. Productivity and quality, the firm's ability to deliver to the customers. Productivity in this regard is always combined with quality. How does this marketing mix intervene in the adaptation process? An adaptation strategy involves changing the elements or components of the marketing mix to fit needs, real or perceived, in particular country markets, as Green and Keegan, 2000, said. According to Aboiron J and CDK, 2001, 2 factors are fundamental to a firm's strategy adaptation process. 1. The firm's adaptation strategy at entry, along each marketing mix component, product, promotion, pricing, and distribution. 2. The perceived success of that component, i.e., how much a firm perceives that each marketing mix component contributes to its success in the overseas market. Strategy adaptation process. According to the internationalization argument, a firm survives in its home market because it possesses specific ownership advantages over its competitors. It seeks to exploit its advantages in overseas markets by exporting its products, licensing its production technology, or investing in foreign markets. The firm's entry strategy in an overseas market. The first factor that affects a firm's current adaptation strategy in an overseas market is the strategy used when it first enters the market. Through a conscious consideration of their objectives, their resources, the host country environment. In order to define the entry mode, the timing, etc. Firm-specific factors, production and other transaction costs, host country variables, for example location choice, nature of host government, and intercultural variables like cultural distance, are essential when a firm designs its entry strategy. According to the researchers, the perceived instrumentality key factor of a marketing mix component to the firm's success in the overseas market is positively related to the degree of adaptation in that marketing mix component after market entry. In short, strategy globalization is more likely to be an exception than a norm. Key factors of a firm's motivation to go abroad are three key components, that are the valence, the instrumentality, and the expectation to motivate and direct a firm's behavior. Valence refers to the affective orientation people hold toward the outcome, instrumentality refers to the link between an act and the outcome, and expectancy refers to the probability of attaining that outcome. Pinder, 1984. Prior studies have verified the application of the expectancy theory to motivations in organizations. The expectancy theory proposes that an individual will behave or act in a certain way because they are motivated to select a specific behavior over others due to what they expect the result of that selected behavior will be. They suggest that at the time of entering a new market, a firm seeks to leverage its domestic position internationally to achieve economy of scale. The executives would evaluate the strength of the relationship between the firm's success and their effort and act accordingly. So, the authors propose that perceived instrumentality to success is a driving motivation when a firm evaluates whether and how much to adapt. Adaptation strategy at entry. Adaptation at entry may be influenced by the decision-making orientation of the firm. Decision-making orientation refers to how a decision-maker plans a firm's strategy in foreign markets within the context of geographic concern. So, the authors propose that the first factor that affects a firm's current adaptation strategy in a foreign market is the strategy the firm uses when it first enters the market. A firm's entry strategy represents its optimal attempt to capture its target risk and return. Although a firm will likely change its strategy after it enters the foreign market, we postulate that the initial strategy works as the anchor for future modification. In other words, firms will learn to adapt to the new host environment. Here are some examples of most common firms' entry strategy. 1. Direct exporting. 2. Licensing, written contract under which the owner of a copyright, know-how, patent, service mark, trademark, or other intellectual property, allows a licensee to use, make, or sell copies of the original. 3. Franchising, the right to use its trademark or trade name as well as certain business systems and processes, To produce and market a good or service according to certain specification. 4. Joint ventures, new firm formed to achieve specific objectives of a partnership like a temporary arrangement between two or more firms. Adaptation strategy and competitive advantage. A competitive advantage is what makes an entity's goods or services superior to all of a customer's other choices. To be successful, firms need to be able to articulate the benefit they provide to their target market that is better than the competition. Competitive advantage could explain why a firm is globalized or localized because its main goal is to survive, and so if it has to stay localized to survive it will do it, and vice versa. Researchers conceptualize how much a firm decides to globalize or adapt contributes to developing, or maintaining, its competitive advantage in its overseas markets. That is, the major consideration in deciding whether to globalize or adapt locally rests on how effective the firm regards the adaptation strategy as leading to its competitive advantage in the overseas market. There is a positive relationship between the current level of adaptation and the competitive advantage of a firm along each of the marketing mix components. Perceived instrumentality to success and competitive advantage. As we just said, the more attention a firm pays toward a particular marketing mix component, for example on the product strategy, the more likely it is that the firm will be able to concentrate on that component to match the market demand. As a result, the firm will learn how to acquire more competitive advantages in its product strategy. This learning process will provide the firm with a competitive advantage needed to succeed in its market. So, the theory is that the perceived instrumentality to success of a marketing mix component is positively related to the competitive advantage of the firm in that marketing mix component. Adaptation strategy and firm performance. The results of previous studies show an unexpected conclusion, that there is no consistent relationship between strategy adaptation and firm performance. The results of a study raise the following question: does strategy adaptation or globalization really matter? Researchers find a positive relationship between export performance and product adaptation, but also an inverse relationship between performance and promotion adaptation. These findings suggest that strategy adaptation works for some but not all components of a firm's marketing strategy. Indeed, by evaluating which component to adapt and how much to adapt it, a firm continues to refine its marketing strategy until it attains competitive advantage in its market. In turn, the firm's competitive advantage determines its performance. So, a firm's performance is positively related to the firm's competitive advantage in marketing strategy. SMEs from emerging market, how they go aboard successfully. Zhang and al. 2014 said that emerging market countries are characterized by weaknesses in institutions, infrastructure, and other public resources to support business. Small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, typically endure limited private resources. Despite such deficiencies, emerging market SMEs are participating increasingly in international business. In my article, the authors examine orientations and strategies that engender superior international performance among SMEs from emerging markets. They develop and test a model using a large dataset of Chinese SMEs to examine the antecedent roles of market culture, international orientation, and international marketing strategy. Findings point to these constructs as significant drivers of international performance. Emerging market refers to less developed economies that are experiencing industrialization, modernization, and rapid growth. They represent 2/3 of the world population. They possess numerous advantages such as low-cost labor, skilled workers, government incentives, and low-cost capital. SMEs, they are firms with 500 or fewer employees and fewer organizational resources, yet many perform well in markets. They constitute 90% businesses worldwide, including those from emerging markets. Despite the deficiencies, emerging market SMEs are doing well and increasing in the international business. According to some scholars, organizational culture, capabilities, collections of orientation and strategies play key roles in internationalization, effective participation and international performance of SMEs from emerging markets. Based on the scholars' theories, a study was done by Walters and Samey, 2003, to examine the intersection of smaller firm internationalization and emerging market SMEs, and addressing this issue among internationalizing SMEs based in China, the largest emerging market. Specifically, they examine the roles of market culture, international orientation, and international marketing strategy as antecedents to international performance in emerging market SMEs. In the theories, researchers and economists talked about the various ways emerging market SMEs were able to succeed in international business even though they tend to lack substantial tangible, financial, or managerial resources. In conclusion, this theory indicated that emerging market SMEs that perform well in international markets are likely to embrace. Organizational culture provides the framework in the firm for enhancing organizational strategy, improving effectiveness, and encouraging operational and process efficiency. Market culture is oriented towards the external environment and focused on external constituencies including suppliers, customers, contractors, licensees, etc. The basic assumption in a market culture is that the external environment is not benign but hostile. Consumers are demanding and interested in value, and the organization is in the business of increasing its competitive position. International orientation reflects a firm's tendency to undertake business in foreign markets. Managers with an international orientation tend to see the world as their firm's marketplace and undertake active exploration of business opportunities abroad. International marketing strategy represents the firm's skillfulness in performing marketing-related activities such as planning, product development, distribution, communications, and image development. International performance is the achievement of remunerative goals such as profitability, sales growth, and return on investment, as well as longer-term strategic objectives. Results provide strong evidence that international performance is significantly a function of international marketing strategy. Walters and Samey, 2003, confirmed the role of international marketing strategy as a mediator. Having a marketing culture and an international orientation are antecedents to international marketing strategy. It can also help the firm to adapt the right way to a target market by insisting on the right marketing mix component. Internationalizing SMEs from emerging markets that apply significant resources to devise superior international market strategies will tend to attain better international business performance. Results also suggest that international marketing strategy mediates the relationship between market culture and international performance. Thank you for your attention. Subscribe to the channel.